Chapter 13, The Laws of the Land. We went to the transportation portal, and I asked it to send us to the city eternal. Rebecca laughed. What's so funny? I asked. You can't just be teleported to somewhere you don't have the exact coordinates of, and certainly not to a place that is hundreds of miles away, she said. How do we not know the exact coordinates? I asked. Rebecca shrugged. I'm not sure, but they seem to want to hide it for some reason, she said. Maybe for some kind of security reason. Then I'll just walk there, I said. She laughed again. You mean you won't use your robe's transportation ability? You won't use a map? Rebecca said. Fine, I said. Do you have a map? She smiled and drew up her hand, at which time her robe produced a holographic map of the entire land. The city eternal is somewhere here, she said, a few hundred miles east. Then let's get going, I said. Rebecca held up her hand and stopped me, then made a few adjustments on my robe's sleeve. These robes can do more than just talk to you and transport you fast, she said. They're also designed to be body monitoring systems and biohacks. Biohacks? I asked. It means biological hacks, she said. Figures out tricks to optimize your body's performance, optimize nutrition and atmosphere. Why not just ask your body what it needs? This is more than a little bit overkill, I said. Overkill? You'd be dead without this tech, she said, and made some more adjustments to my robe. You never would have survived the desert, that's for damn certain. She finished altering the robe, straightened it out, then smiled. Let's go, she said. We began flying, even faster than before, mere inches above the road that was headed east, into the morning sun, the wind whipping through our hair. So what happens when you find the city? She asked. What then? I'm not sure. I'll at least have my answer, I said, and my mother can rest in peace. I hope so, because it's a very real possibility that we find the city and it doesn't give you the answer you seek. You're still alone. You're still lost, she said. I have to believe something will work out, that there's hope, that we're part of this world, I said, a part of nature. A part of nature, she said, just like that decaying corpse over there, that mudslide that decimated this entire field. I looked out at the landscape. It wasn't exactly pretty in the typical sense, but Rebecca was wrong. She had to be. I ignored her and watched the landscape quickly pass by. The sparse, dull desert landscape. The only things I saw were the occasional gray house or power lines and broken down old signs and buildings. It was incredibly quiet. So is this still part of Alpha Nation? I asked. We are approaching the edge of Alpha Nation, she said, into a kind of lawless land, or rather, a place where the law of the land presides. The law of the land? What's that? I asked. Well, she said, it's a figure of speech for all the rules that less advanced societies abide by. Out here, without robot police or true societal structures, it's essentially crude Darwinism, survival of the strongest. It's survival of the fittest, not survival of the strongest, I said. Huh? She said. Darwin. The ones that survive aren't necessarily the strongest or even the smartest, but the ones most aligned with and able to adapt to and take advantage of their environment, I said. I guess they do teach you things in Zebra Nation, she said, even if they're kind of wrong. I shrugged. The computer said something about other nations that were created, I said. Yeah, Rebecca replied. I think this is the land of the Opay. There's a few others, the Boreals up north, the Aloha far to the west. So it isn't exactly lawless if people live here, I said. You have not met the Opay, she said. It was starting to get dark. We should stop for the night, I said. No need, she said. We can push forward. You said you wanted to find out all about the city eternal, and the sooner the better, right? No, I said. I'm getting a bad feeling about this. The road up ahead doesn't look too good, and I want to be able to see where we are going. When we traveled in Zebra Nation, we always made sure we could see where we were going and we were safe. And yet you almost died in the desert, she said. I slowed down, but she kept going. I reluctantly followed. And then it happened. We were flying along when all of a sudden, out of the dark, a chattering appeared in my mind. A snare seemed to appear right in front of us. We crashed headfirst into a raven and then a bush, and then we just tumbled. The robes emitted some sort of force field to protect us, but I could hear something in the suits crunching as we first crashed into a huge rock and then fell into an embankment. We sat in a bush full of scars and scratches and then slowly stood up and regained our composures. We stumbled up as the raven flew by. And then I saw it. People hiding in the bushes. "We just want to pass through," I said. I heard laughter. "Can't trust them," the voices said. "Humans are not to be trusted." I listened carefully. They were humans. "But you're humans too," I said. I could sense it. "There's nothing to be afraid of," I told them. I walked slowly over to where they were. "I apologize," I said. "We did not mean to intrude." "No!" Rebecca yelled. "Get back! Get back! Get away from them, cloudy sky!" As she yelled, her robe emitted shocks and sparked. She did this a few times, and they ran off in fear. "Good riddance," she said. "You really have a lot to learn," I said. "I have a lot to learn? I am the one that scared them off, didn't I?" She yelled, and then looking down at her robe and the busted up control panel and torn up and frayed edges, she sighed. "Oh no," she muttered to herself, frantically trying to press buttons on the broken robe, trying to activate her temporal implant to calm her down. It wasn't working. Nothing was working. She started to cry. "It's okay," I said, and I put my hand on her shoulder. "At least we're alive. The robes protected us from that crash," I said. "I would rather have died," she yelled. "We're in the hill country. It's just outside of Alpha Nation, but it isn't very well known. All I know is it has crazy weather, huge snakes, poisonous spiders, and apparently crazy people. I can't deal with this." "They weren't crazy," I said. "If you had listened and we had stopped, we wouldn't even have these broken robes." She just groaned. "Don't argue with me, cloudy sky. Don't try to blame me. Being out here is all your fault," she yelled. I put my ear to the ground. The plant life and animal life around here was strange, but I should be able to make a fire. I looked for tracks. No spiders or snakes anywhere near here, and there's a muskrabbit hole, so we should be safe, I said. She sighed and looked sadly at her busted robe. "It will be okay," I tell her. "Let's just get ready for the night. We can decide what to do in the morning." She reluctantly agrees. I look for flint and herbs, and I ask her to look for dry sticks. It's still desert country, so there's a lot of dried out trees. I find some nettlewort and put it in my pocket. The night is long, but the fire helps make it bearable. I use the nettlewort and mugwort to make poultices for our bruised arms and wrists. I ask the flame ants to alert us if anyone comes by. But given how startled those two people were, I doubt that's going to happen. The fire ants agree, but only in exchange for a few nibbles from our arms and legs. I agree, hoping they aren't bound to be too enthusiastic. Luckily, they're respectful, and as night falls, they leave us to sleep. In my dream, I am back at the crash site. Those two people are hiding in the bushes. This time, though, they don't run away. This time, they call out to me. "Follow me. We have to show you something." I do. Rebecca says not to trust them. I tell her I have to take a chance. I'm amazed. "This is what I needed to see," I tell them. But I wake up before I found out what it was they were showing me. "I'm starving," Rebecca tells me as she yawns at the first light. "We need to head back and get something to eat." I ignore her and collect water from some leaves and drink. I grab a few to give her. "Delicious," she says, "but it's not very filling." "Did you hear what I just said? We need to head back, Cloudy." I disagree, I said. "I had a vision. I think we need to keep going." I turn over a log. Grubs and fungus cover it. I take a moment to identify them and smile. "These will have to do," I tell her, giving her a handful of grubs. "Chewy, but nutritious." "No," she said, "I'm not eating that, and I'm not going any further." Listen, just stick with me for a few days, I said. In Zebra Nation, we have to survive for weeks on Tiburon Mountain. It's cold, windy, damp, and there's not much except sticks to eat. We will survive just fine. But this isn't Zebra Nation. We don't even have working robes anymore, so we will never find this city eternal, she said. Yes, we will. We'll head east, I said, continuing walking. Cloudy, how do you know that's east? She asked. I pointed at the sun. Rises in the east, I said, though you have to take into account the time of year, so it's a bit northeast right now. It's got to be another 100 miles, she said. We'll be there in no time, I said. Just a few more days and then we'll head back, she said. Deal, I said. She reluctantly trudged behind me. I thought about the dream, which was almost certainly a vision, and decided not to talk about the details with Rebecca, although in the back of my mind it was all I was thinking about.